Donovan Owens. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man.
How you doing today?
Feeling good. How you doing?
Hey, we had a great workout this morning.
Oh, yeah. Soul check. For sure.
Yep. It was one of those where you had to just continue to keep moving. You didn't know when to stop.
Yeah.
And it added an element of just being present in the moment and just focusing on every single rep.
No doubt.
It was an endurance game.
But you knew it was going to hurt. Like, there's no doubt about that. So can you just get the next rep? That's what it was about.
Yeah. So for the audience, just tell them a bit about yourself, people who might not know you.
Well, where to start? So right now I'm the committed man online. And so basically I'm a men's lifestyle and mindset coach. I've been coaching for 21 years. Me and a buddy of mine have a gym in Pflugerville called Bodies by Design. And our mentor got us started in the industry 21 years ago. And we're all three still together coaching in this gym in the trenches with all of our clients. Some of them have been there all 21 years with us. So very amazing community that we have going there. Lately, I've had this calling on my heart, though, that I'm being called to do more. And that calling is to coach men through their struggles, no matter how successful they may be, 6, 7-figure men who still find themselves getting stuck because there's a distraction going on. And so, I feel called to do the best work I can right there. So that's where I'm at in my life right now. Grew up playing sports, so athletic background, loved the idea of figuring out what the body was capable of, and then figured out that the mind is really attached to that, and never lost that connection and always wanted to explore it deeper, and have done that for myself in lots of ways. I compete in some fitness competitions every year.
Nice.
Have a beautiful queen I've been with for 8 years. We have 4 kids combined. All of them are grown and out of the house and expecting our 3rd grandchild in September. So
congrats.
That's where life is right now, man.
Life's good. And you're one of those rare few that go to war every single day on yourself, right? You wake up, you're doing burpees, and you work out hard. Like when we have a group of 50 guys, Donovan's outlifting everybody. And I see how you work out, and honestly, it's infectious, and I might have to check out that gym here pretty soon.
Yeah, come on down, man. But the thing is, like, any man can do that. And I speak mostly to men, but anybody listening to this can do that anywhere. And it's just exactly what you said. It's the willingness to go to war with yourself, because we're going to wake up and face resistance every day. But the opposite side of that, we're also waking up wanting to be the best versions of ourselves, right? Yeah. So which are you going to choose? Is the resistance going to win that day? Or are you actually going to tap into what it takes to be the greatest version of yourself? And I'm on a mission with that right now, and more than ever.
Oh, yeah. And it feeds into everything else. Like, you conquer your day doing the hardest thing, which is working out. Highly recommend people to start their day like that.
Yeah. Because
then the rest of the day, you're relaxed, you're in flow.
Sure.
And the more you work hard, the more you can get out, and the harder you can work tomorrow. But it didn't always start off that way, right? You were a trainer and you had a fit body, fitness throughout. But I was listening to your story the other day too, man, and on Just a Drive. And that's why it's awesome to do podcasts, because you get to learn about other people and their stories. But if you don't mind, just what's some of that story, that testimony, that rock bottom to the success story now?
Yeah, man, that's a powerful journey. So what I figured out is through my teens, I was in a very rebellious state, and I could feel it coming on, like starting at 14 years old. I didn't know why at the time it was happening. I'm just living life, being a 14-year-old dude trying to figure out manhood and all these things that are coming. So now I can look back and say, I know I was searching for an identity, because what happened is I was doing really well in playing football. My grades were okay. I was doing enough to get by, But then I figured out, I discovered drugs, I discovered women, and those became distractions in my life. And 3 months before I was set to graduate from high school, I decided I'm going to drop out, because I got caught doing some things I shouldn't have been doing on a lunch break at school. And somebody came back and told the school advisors, and they came and got me out of class and say, all right, we're going to put you in this special class, which is like, you got to, wear the uniform every day. And
oh, wow.
And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'll just drop out, because at that age, I know everything, So I was like, oh, best decision. I'm just going to drop out. Luckily, the home I was raised in was full of love. My mom, she got me, gathered me up and said, no, we're not doing that. I'm going to ship you off to go live with your aunt in South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So I went to do that, ended up graduating there and got my driver's license there and all the little milestones that a man wants to reach as he's getting older. Even when I got there, though, like I put myself in a situation where I was discovering trouble, right? Seemed to always be that. And so did all the things I needed to do there. I felt I was gone long enough to be able to come back home and maybe get back into a new life. Came back home and got right back into the same old stuff I was doing, right? Because I hadn't fixed the operating system yet. Yeah. So here's, kind of fast forward. By 18, I had my first child. By 19, I had my second child. I was married by 21. So life accelerated really quickly and got into the next evolution of being a man was get a job and work to pay the bills, take care of your family, all those things. So I was doing my best to figure that out with my perspective of the world at that time. So there was a point. So I was married for 14 years. The last 7 years of that marriage was a struggle for me because I was on this personal growth path trying to discover myself, and it led to me feeling a certain way through the relationship, and we grew apart, and that's fine. So we ended up at 14 years, got divorced. Then I spent the next 5 years really going on this deep dive of inner work. But the first part of that was this deep depression that hit me. So the question that came up after the divorce was, am I a good dad? Did I do everything I could? How am I showing up? Do my clients know that I'm going through this stuff? Like, how am I being viewed by the world? It was all these questions, and it was all in my head. Man. I wasn't sharing it with anybody. I was just dealing with it in my head. So it led to some dark nights of sitting in my house, ordering Domino's pizza, starting to get fat, watching more TV, just all the things that lead to a dark hole, right? Yeah. So there was this one pivotal evening where I actually sat on the side of my bed. I had my pistol next to me, and I was like, maybe it'd be easier just to not be here, right? So just imagine I'm sitting on the edge of the bed like this, pistol's right next to me, and I can feel it touching my leg, and I reach down and I grab it. I don't pick it up though. I grab it just so if I decide to go through with this, there's less action I have to take. And then there was this one moment that hit me that I'm so grateful for, which is there was like this vision, right? A very spiritual situation. And this word just came floating. It's like it came floating down out of the sky. And the word was gratitude. And the way it happened was amazing. Down through my head into my heart. So I was like into the soul area, and I felt it. And it's like this weight lifted off, and I could see both of my girls. I could see their eyes, both of my daughters. And I was like, oh, okay, I got it. I'm responsible for a few things here. And actually I'm responsible for every step of my life up to this point. And every step after this, I'm going to be responsible for. And that's what I had to settle into, and to be grateful for all the experiences. They were teaching me something. And so I knew that from that point, I was going to have to operate differently. And I was going to have to create my own lifestyle operating system so that it was unique and personalized to me. And so I got busy doing that over the next 5 years, understood the 4 power pillars that I wanted to focus on and only give my energy to. And everything outside of that was a no. And yeah, I'm about to be 45 now, in the best shape of my life.
And people love you, man.
Great relationship. Yeah, I mean, great relationships all over the place. And I feel like, just starting to accelerate through this journey, and I'm happy to help other men through it.
Yeah, wow. So powerful, man. When I heard that, just shook me completely, because anybody can go down that dark path. Doesn't matter how good your life is right now. A few bad decisions stacked upon each other, isolating yourself, just getting into that dark corner. Essentially, it's just going to be lies floating through your spirit and through your mind. And those are the darkest nights. Those are the bottom of the totem pole. It's just, is rock bottom. And I've had my rock bottoms too. And I think for anybody that is either living a mediocre life or just battling their mind on what they should be doing, they might be shooting all over themselves all the time.
All over themselves, yeah.
It's that resistance that we're talking about, that war with yourself. That are you going to choose the fit guy or the fat guy? Are you going to build momentum in the positive direction or the wrong direction? And there's really no staying in the middle. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And that testimony, that story that you've had, it's just, there's people that need to hear that message. And that's why it's so powerful for you to speak on it, because it gives people strength, that relatability. Sometimes people, when they isolate themselves, they feel like they have the most unique problems. Nobody has it worse than them. But that perspective that came over you is so powerful. That spiritual experience of gratitude is so beautiful. You said you're going to run everything through that filter of gratitude. And that is exactly what it is. What angle of life? That's why everything's mindset, really. Everything is how you see the world. When you change the way you look at the world changes.
No doubt. No doubt.
Tell me more about those 4 pillars. I really liked them. Actually, I loved them, especially the venture part.
Yeah. So what I discovered in my life was that there are 4 main, what I call power pillars, because, a pillar is a sign of strength, holds something up, right? Think of a pillar. And then power, if you operate through these pillars with aligned action, you build personal power through these. So for me, what came up were I needed my strong self, right? My strong self includes my forever fitness, my nourishing nutrition, and my mindset mastery. That's the gateway. Okay. Yeah. If I don't begin there, the rest of the pillars don't even matter. I'm not going to show up fully to those. Okay. But that's number 1. Power pillar number 2 is real relationships. That involves my intimate relationship, my family relationships, and my friend relationships. I want to show up powerfully in those relationships. In order to do that, there is work that has to be done. There's things that I have to stay conscious about. Otherwise, it's easy to kind of drift through and be like, oh, I haven't talked or seen this person for a while. So that's power pillar number 2, real relationships. Power pillar number 3 is worthwhile work. I don't want to just do any kind of work, right? I want to do work that's worthwhile, fills me up. And so sometimes you have to start where you are. So it involves current work, your dream work, and then the bridge work. So the current work may be where somebody is right now. And you may not like what you're doing right now. It doesn't fulfill you, but it is where you are. So can you give everything you can to that? Your dream work is what you would do if money, time was not an issue. You would give all your energy to this because there's something you feel about it. Yep. And so that's the dream work. Now, if you're not at the dream, then what's important is that you do the bridge work, right? The bridge work is what takes you from the current to the dream. And so while you're doing your 9 to 5, you may have to come home, spend the time with the family, put the women and kids to bed, and then get to work for a couple hours on building the bridge. So that's power pillar number 3 is worthwhile work. Power pillar number 4, and one of the most neglected, especially for men, is amazing adventure. Amazing adventure involves happy hobbies. What are all the things you used to love to do that you don't do anymore because you're busy adulting, right? And then component number 2 of that is local adventure. There's things right in front of our face that we can just go out and explore right here in our own city, our own state. And then the component number 3 of that is travel adventure. There's a big world out there. Why don't we get out there and see it, meet people, different cultures, get embedded in what's really going on in the world, so that what we hear on the news or on, any kind of social media channels becomes false. Yeah. Right. Because it's become false in my mind after I've started traveling to these different countries. Man, there's a lot of love out there in the world. So those power pillars give a man focus. Yeah. If there's something that comes into your life that doesn't fit into those power pillars and the energy you want to give those components within each pillar, it's a no. And it's that black and white, because then it becomes distraction. And what I found is that distraction is the ultimate villain. Okay. If you're not making the money you want, you're distracted. If you're not having the relationships you want, you're distracted. If you're not doing the work you want to do, you're distracted. If you don't feel the way you want to feel, your body doesn't look the way you want it to look, you're distracted because there is a way for it to get done. Are you being resourceful enough, applying your energy in the right way, aligning your actions so that you can achieve the thing? There's going to be a lot of resistance that shows up. Yeah. They all fall under distraction. And so that's what my mission is to help men, push that distraction down so they can see, here's your 4 focus points. Do these things.
Yeah. Wow. A lot to chew on there. And I'm going to pick that and dive deeper on some parts. But what did you bring?
Oh, yeah. Let's do this, man. So Happy Tiger, Patrick at our men's group, Empowered Brotherhood, has got this Happy Tiger kombucha. Just bought this today. This comes from his land that he lives on. This is the Holy Water Basil Melon.
Looks good.
Yeah. Using that Barton Springs water, some of the best water around. Happy Tiger kombucha. So it's Happy Tiger fermented on Instagram. We're about to try this for the first time. See what we got here.
Kombucha's good for that.
But yeah, I know kombucha has a little fizz too. I got to make sure we don't blow up here in your studio.
No.
It's not bad. That's not bad.
Good. Right. Some of it can be like worse than Coke.
All right, let's get a little shot. Kombucha.
Do you drink kombucha?
I do, not on a regular basis, but every time I've had it, I enjoy it. But I haven't had like a homemade version from a guy we know, just like this, So that's that Happy Tiger.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, brother. Let's see what we got here.
Delicious. Not gonna lie.
Ooh, I love that.
Genuinely good.
You know what I love about it the most? It's not trying to be sweet like all the other ones want. They want to try to be sweet to satisfy that palate. This is, you can tell, this is just natural.
And the thing about buying local too is sometimes when companies get too big, too automated, too factory, it takes the love out of it.
Yeah, you can't feel that. Like I can feel this. It came from some land around here somewhere,
We know the guy, and he's really
good work, Patrick. Yep. Good work.
Delicious, man. Man, those 4 pillars are beautiful. I love what you're saying on the distractions. When you crystallize, when you have clarity, there's just less distractions. And you maybe have to peel off some layers. Maybe you have to heal some old wounds. There's a lot of baggage that we bring to this life that takes us away from this present moment. How does somebody get to the point where they make progress? Do you just tell them, hey, here are the 4 pillars? Or what kind of baggages do you feel like you have to remove from another man? Like what was it for you that allowed you to get clear? You went to some seminars, you said, or you invested in yourself, right? So
I did.
How does that look like?
Well, so I started by investing in myself and like getting myself around other men because I knew I didn't really have those influences in my life, right? So how is a man supposed to operate in this world? I had to go discover that. So I saw the entire spectrum, right? I saw a bunch of very ego and pride filled conferences that I went to. It was just too wanting to be like masculine men, which was, okay, fine. There was some good lessons there. And then I saw the other end of the spectrum where you're really like tapping into this energy of finding, a lot of people talk about the inner child and those types of things. But I think it's valuable work for some people who are ready to go there, but it's deep. Yeah. You got to be ready to unmask some things. Yeah. What I found is kind of this middle ground where think about a lawn, right? In a lawn, it can be just plush green. And then what happens is maybe you get some really hot summer days, or you get, a drought, or you get too much rain, and it some of the grass starts to die, right? That would be the distraction comes in, and it opens up space for weeds to creep in. Yeah. So my mission is to help people just start growing more grass so we can crowd out the weeds. The way you do that is by doing what I call aligned action. And what aligned action is making the decision that here's what I know I want, right? Here's what I choose to do. When I choose to do that, I got to identify what resistance am I going to face along the way, right? What historically has come up as far as resistance, and what do I see as resistance that could come up along the way? Is it my own laziness? Is it my own thoughts? Is it that this person always tries to stop me every time I share something with them? Is my car kind of like on the edge and it could break down when I try to get here? What is the resistance that could come up? Identify it. So when that resistance comes up, you can decide what layer of discipline you're going to apply to it.
Wow.
Right. And if you decide this beforehand, then you're more prepared than just saying, you know what, I'm going to achieve this thing. And then you're walking out the door doing the stuff and you forget that life is going to hit you in the face when you walk out the door. So you're blind to the fact that just because you want something doesn't mean you're going to get it. There is work that has to be done, and resistance must show up in order to see if you have what it takes to earn the right to get the thing. So
brilliant.
That 3-step process is to grow more grass. What is it that you want? What resistance will you face? And what discipline are you prepared to push up against that resistance so you can win the game? And I found if you do that enough times, you don't have to go too far back into your past and dig through all these things and find all the trauma and figure out why did it happen and how are you responding to it, what you're triggered by. That's valuable work for some, but not everyone needs to go there. And so for anybody, especially men who are like on this path of like drive, ambition, discipline, who just feel a little bit stuck and need to get some momentum in their lives, we can start right there and just start moving you through. Hey, what's your next step? Cut the rest out and let's think about what your next step is. And let's take that, start to build some momentum. And once you do that, then everything else starts to get crowded out.
Man, I love that. That really does help. And I love what you're saying too. Not everybody has to go to the depths of your soul to just start to work out. It could be as simple as some of these solutions. But one of the pillars that you were talking about, number 4, I'm just call it the Great Adventure. What'd you call it? Number 4?
Amazing Adventure.
Amazing Adventure.
The Great Adventure. That's great. I love it.
You went to Cabo here recently.
Yeah.
So it seems like you planned that very intentionally. You know, I'm curious about you, man. What do you do for fun? What are some of those hobbies? I got mine. I'll share some in a bit.
Sure.
And what's your next trip?
Okay, so let me just go. Next trip is going to be Puerto Vallarta, right?
Nice.
That's where the Queen wants to go, and she's already looked up all the things. And usually when that happens, the next thing is we're booking flights. So that's cool. Coming up real soon. I know the booking of the flights. Now, when we're going, I'm not sure. We try to take a couple trips every year. Another part of my adventure is putting myself in fitness competitions. Oh. I love to do that because it stimulates this other side of me that keeps something out in front of me that I know is hard. And so it keeps me focused. I built adventure into my week. So I feel blessed to be in a position where I can structure my week however I want to. And so that's why I come to the Empowered Brotherhood. That's an adventure for me, right? Because every workout's different. I don't know what I'm stepping into. I just blindly come in and I'm like, all right, tell me what's up. Okay. And then there's a couple different places that I work, a co-working space. So every weekend, go out and do a run somewhere. That I feel like that's adventure for me. But the traveling is the biggest thing that's on my mind right now. I want to see this world. And so right now, taking 2 trips a year, eventually it's going to be more than that. It's going to be almost like my job. That's where we're going next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I agree with you. Just intentionally planning your week. A lot of guys that are driven, probably just like myself, I lost all my hobbies in the name of making it. Getting just in the name of the grind, right? The hustle culture. Like if you aren't working 24 hours, bleeding out your eyes because you're not sleeping, you ain't working hard enough. That's that philosophy that I followed. And I learned a lot about myself just working my ass off, but a balanced approach is much more sustainable. And in the end of the day, whatever we accomplish will be forgotten. Do you remember anybody from your ancestors a couple hundred years ago? Probably not. We're going to be forgotten. And in this lifetime, I've figured out that you want to enjoy it as much as possible.
Sure.
But it's not that YOLO, do every kind of drug and just party 24/7.
Yeah.
That's the pleasure side of the dopamine side. What we're talking about is finding pleasure in the dopamine and doing the hard things.
Yeah.
And that leads to a much more fulfilling, gratifying life.
And experiencing and feeling it, right? Not numbing it as you go through. Like sit in the feeling of like, man, what's it like to take this 20-hour flight somewhere? Or what's it like to go to a different time zone and experience the jet lag? And all those things, you want to feel it.
Have you flown 20 hours?
So it was 15 to Israel was our trip before Cabo. Went to Israel.
Dang.
So that was my first experience ever with jet lag. I always heard people talk about jet lag. I'm like, man, come on, what are y'all talking about? I got the experience.
Wow.
Yeah, on that one.
I know what you mean. I did probably just as many. We went to Atlanta for a big international flight to South Korea, Seoul. And that was overnight. We slept, we ate some interesting food, got to figure out what bidets were for the first time once you get down to Asia. And then we took another like 10 hours to Bali. And the time zones, yeah, it was awesome. There's a few people from the Brotherhood that have been to Bali. Seems like one of those spiritual meccas people have to go to.
Sure.
But when you do travel that far, you do unplug out of the United States matrix that has us consuming capitalism.
Are we going to go there?
Oh, yeah. Let's go there, man. Because that's something huge that a lot of people I see everywhere. The statistic is like most people will die 20 miles from where they were born. So like they will spend almost their whole life in just a general area, maybe travel here a little bit, but nothing like world travel.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an amazing stat, you know? And I think a lot of it comes from the things that for me, a lot of it would have come from like what we hear in the media, what I hear in the media, until I got out there and discovered it for myself and be like, there's nothing like I heard in the media. Like, you just got to go out and discover.
Especially you said Israel you went to?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, tell me about it. Like, I only know some stuff, but it's always on the news. It's always something going on over there.
Well, yeah, and the way it's displayed is not quite how it is. Now, there's some turmoil there, right? Of course, that's anywhere. There's lots of religious background there. There's lots of territory stuff going on there. But for the most part, people were just ready to share love, man. And the history there was amazing. Jerusalem, amazing. The food, the hospitality, it's a lot of these places now are modernized because there's a lot more people traveling than ever. But it's
the ancient city.
You have to go in and see it for yourself. So
you went to Israel.
Yeah.
You didn't get blown up.
It's
not World War III over there.
It's not. Now they do have some moments. I think it's the trend is like every 20 years there's this kind of thing that happens where the territories get hostile with each other and it turns into, a couple people getting killed or whatever because they have a little battle. But for the most part, in between those times, there's just people minding their business. They understand the territories over there. And when you travel there, you get good guidance from locals that are there on what you need to do and you feel safe. We walk the streets at night and we ate in a lot of different local places and I walked around by myself a lot of times. It's amazing.
How long did you spend out there?
We were there 7 days. And the first night we were there, woke up to our bed shaking, right?
Earthquake.
Whoa. So you remember the last earthquake that happened in, I think it was Egypt. Was it Egypt?
Somewhere around there, Turkey.
Yeah, Turkey area. So we felt that as a 4.9 where we were. And so woke up to the bed shaking and
that was bad.
We didn't have any idea that this was happening. Of course, we don't watch the news, none of that stuff. Like we didn't know that there was a potential for it. So
and Austin doesn't get earthquakes.
Yeah, we don't get earthquakes. So it was weird. Like I'm waking up, I'm like, why is the bed moving? We're literally moving like this. Nothing's cracking. There's no noise, nothing. It just feels like an ocean wave. And then we hear people in the hallway like, is that an earthquake? And I'm like, so we looked it up online and saw for sure it was an earthquake and feel for everybody who was in Turkey and dealt with like the epicenter of that. But
yeah, that
was our experience the night we showed up, like 2:30 in the morning.
Alexander Hill, have you met him from Empower Brotherhood?
I think, yeah, I have.
He's an awesome guy, but he said that like we could think we're so great, but all it takes is Mother Nature to humble us. And for you to feel the earth, feel like it's jello, man,
it's a different feeling.
That's wild. So you talked about the earthquake in Turkey, and that was really sad that did happen. And of course, there's tragedies all over the world happening. And that is something that we kind of get sheltered on here in Austin. There might have been a tornado last year that hit Round Rock or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was as bad as it gets. We had snowpocalypse maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes me think of Did your business take a huge shift during COVID 2 years ago? Like, how long have you been doing this kind of work? I think it was 2018.
So we've had the gym since 2002. So it's 21 years in there. And so there was a shift, yes. But we're blessed to have the community we have, because what we did, we just took all of the training online. So we were able to do all of our Zoom sessions and keep the members rolling, and everybody was very responsive and understood. Like, we were all going through it, you know what I mean? So they understood we were doing what we could to keep them rolling with their goals. And the biggest change is we weren't there on location. We were doing it through Zoom. And when it was time to come back, all of our members came back, and it's like, you don't forget these things, but now it's like, it's almost like nothing happened, right? And I say that very loosely, but this is how things go in life. At the moment you're in it, in the chaos, it can feel like this is never going to end. And it's like, oh, I got to change all these things. It can feel like a task, but this too shall pass. Yeah. And that's where we're at now. And, the next thing will come. And as humans, it's part of our responsibility when that resistance hits to be resourceful to create a valuable situation for those in our lives. And we're just going to have to do that over and over again.
Were you educating your clients, hey, get some sunshine, go get outside, breathe some fresh air? Like, I'm sure you were one of those positive voices opposing the lockdowns, like, breathe toxic air, don't get any vitamins and minerals. Like, it's just wild that a few years looking back now, everybody knows it, common sense. Like, yeah, we did a few things incorrectly, and a lot of people just blindly followed. I think that just really exposed people to the falsehood of the media. Essentially, it was our modern day 9/11. When 9/11 first hit, that's when I first started hearing people think of, whether it was an inside job or not, it was just the first time I started hearing a different narrative than what mainstream media started to tell me. But going into nutrition and how it makes your body feel, the food industries are meant to just get us addicted to these foods.
Early.
Yes, they are meant to, they're made in a lab with the smartest scientists, meant to be unnaturally sweet, unnaturally addicting. The odds are stacked against us. You go drive down any road in the US, there's tons of fast food left and right. Mm-hmm. You go to the grocery stores and the main aisles are just junk food. So it's kind of like we're set up to fail. How do you help a client improve their health? And it's honestly a vital part of their life.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the things that comes up when you talk about this is we're in a world that is created with a bunch of systems, okay? And if we take that systems approach in our own life, it can be very powerful. So if you think about all the systems, right? The system that set up the matrix you mentioned earlier. So you go to school, graduate high school. The goal is to get into a college, to do your 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever it is, come out of college. Through that process, you're stressed out. You're probably going into debt, and you come out of college. Now you're in the debt system. Once you're in that debt system, you better get a job that pays you some money, right? So now you're in this work system, which turns into these days the overwork system. Once you get into the overwork system, now you're stressed out, right? So now that you're stressed out, well, now that's okay. We got something for you. Come into our happy hour system. We got this happy hour system where you can go sit around on a Wednesday, Thursday night. You can drink as much as you want to. You can just laugh it away while you're complaining about the things that you don't like. And then, so you're in that system, okay? Wow. Now, if that system becomes not enough for you, well, you can surely join the political system, the media system, the sitcom system, whatever it is. There's all these other systems set up for you that can distract you from you being your greatest version of yourself. So once you get into those systems, if they're not enough, then there's another one waiting for you, right?
Pharmaceutical system.
You got the pharmacy. Okay. So yeah, that's another one, right? So you get into that, you're like, oh man, I'm stressed out. I got anxiety. I got depression, because a lot of it, what happens is when you get so deep into these systems, you're not fulfilling what your life is, what you're being called to do. And so there's this feeling of I'm just anxious. I'm depressed. You're getting all this information from sources that you really don't need to be getting information from. And so now you got some health issues. Okay. Plus you're eating fast food because you got into the fast food system, because all you got to do is drive right by there. Don't even have to get out of your car, push some buttons, order some stuff, pick it up, or they'll deliver it to your house, whatever. Right. I use that system too sometimes. Right. But I'm very, very conscious about it.
It's really a modern, crazy invention. You just snap your fingers and you got a burger right outside the door.
So you got that fast food system. Once you're in that system, it's surely you got the fast food, you got the stress, you got the alcohol, you got the depression, you got the anxiety. You're the perfect template for all of everything that can be provided for you inside this medical system. Come on into the medical system. And once we get you in here, we're just going to make a comfortable bed for you. Right. And yeah, you'll exist through life, but we have the bed for you that you're going to sleep in. And so I want people to think about this and tell me I'm wrong. Those systems are interlinked. Now, those are the high level systems that are running the matrix. Okay. When you step out of the matrix, what you have is, all right, I need to create my own lifestyle operating system so that I can remove myself from these things. And this is what I teach the men in my program called the mental shift. How do you create your own lifestyle operating system so that you can dictate and have more power over your choices? Because if the world is run by systems, shouldn't we have our own? If we don't, we're going to join one. Right. So I think I went off on a tangent there, but we're talking about like the how the world is structured. And
that was brilliant.
We got to pull out of that structure.
Yeah. The way you put that was just mind opening. Yeah. The world does run out of systems. And whether there's a globalist elite or not, there's just so many people. Capitalism just incentivizes you to create good systems. That's all McDonald's did, is they create a phenomenal system.
They did, right?
And people always, usually the human nature is just to seek the least resistance, the path of least resistance, the easiest route, which is why a lot of these companies are very successful, because it's so easy. They give us the sugar pills, right? They give us the quick instant hits, and that's why they dominate and run this world. But we can clearly see it's not working for ourselves. It's not working for the community or the planet. How do we make our own systems?
Yeah. So first of all, if you hear us talking about this, it can seem like doom and gloom. And it's only doom and gloom if you choose to stay in that system, because how can you win in it? Right. We've seen where it leads you. So there's no way to win in those integrated systems I just talked about. The other side of it is, there's a whole different level of systems. I would say they're a level above the matrix, right? Where you decide, you know what? This is my one life. What is it that I want for my life? What is it that my mastery messages, my intuition tell me are the next steps? And what if I just started to follow that, right? What if I focused on my strong self? That's the system, right? The 4 pillars are the system. What if I focused on my strong self? I was relentlessly consistent with my fitness. That's got to change your life, right?
Oh, yeah.
What if I'm relentlessly consistent with filling my body up with nourishing nutrition? Is it life-changing? Yeah. What if I'm so consistent, like every day I'm doing something that helps me master my mind? I'm dropping into discipline every single day. It's got to change your life. What if I'm seeing my relationships and I'm saying, you know what, how can I show up better here today? And I'm working at that with empathy and love for everybody around me. Life-changing stuff. You don't hear about how to do this in the media. Okay. What if I'm looking at my work and be like, you know what? I don't like the work I'm doing right now, but that doesn't mean I can't show up as powerfully as possible in the work I'm doing and also start building the thing that I want. What if we just did that? And it sounds simple talking about it, and it is simple, but it's not easy because human behavior gets in the way. Okay. But again, there's a system you create of taking small actions to build momentum, aligning those actions with the integrity of what you say you want. And then what if, while I'm doing all that, I have some fun and I adventure a little bit and do all the things that I know can fill me up? Because sometimes the work can drain you a little bit, right? Sometimes giving what you can to your relationships, it takes energy. Okay. It's not like it's bad energy, but energy goes up and it goes down. Adventure seems to be a way to fill you back up so you can show up stronger to those other things. So there's the system and it's focus, and anything outside of that becomes a distraction. And that's just how we're living, man. And that's the level above the matrix. You remove yourself from that and say, oh, you know what? The hell with all that. Here's what I want to do. And just start doing that the best you can.
Love it. Which goes to that principle that anybody can make a heaven out of hell and a hell out of heaven. And the matrix system that people are plugged into is designed to make you feel so sick, fat, and nearly dead. Disconnected
Existing.
and depressed. Just existing.
Yeah.
And you have to be real with yourself and totally look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself the truth. People use softeners. It's not that bad, or it's just this time. But I love Robin's approach where you just tell yourself exactly what you need to see. Like, I was a wimp. I was pathetic. I was a coward. Now, you don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay in those negative emotions. But if you're displaying that behavior, call it out and do something about it. I love that 4-pillar system. It really just puts it all together. And the biggest thing that we're doing is, of course, we're also finding community, other people who are living the same way.
No doubt.
And that has been so fulfilling for me to finally, I was just living in my own world. I had been in this domain, Austin area, for about a year. Luckily, what you seek is also seeking you. And when I felt abundant enough to where, I need to follow this person, follow that person. I like the messages that this person's seen. And it led me to Stefanos, and it led me to Garen Jones on Instagram. And then I saw a bunch of people working out, and I didn't think much of it at the beginning, but relationships over time is how influence is built. Decided, you know what? I need to make this a higher priority. Changed my days off of work, because that was always my excuse. I work on Thursdays, like a lot of other people's. Changed my day off, made that happen.
That's powerful.
Right? And now I've met great people like yourself. And just everybody there, when you find community of like-minded people, when you have your values clear first, then you're going to attract the same vibration. And man, it's fulfilling. It's just like a different scoop of the ice cream. Like, everybody's got different flavor, a different style, but we're all saying the same stuff.
Sure. I'm
sure you met a lot of great people, right?
Yeah, no doubt, man. And just being in the Empowered Brotherhood, and then also on this journey of writing, like, spiritual clarity, mental clarity, physical clarity, like all these things. You're right. It's a certain kind of energy. So you start to feel for that type of energy around you. And you can tell when you meet somebody who's on that growth path. And as men, especially, it's very important to be on that growth path, because we are kind of the drivers, the ambition, we have these masculine tendencies, but there's also the feminine that we have to tap into, where we have to receive the ability to get into a relationship, with somebody else and hear where they're coming from and understand their story, and not just giving all the time, right? Like, let me give all my energy to this. Let me do this. Let me take charge of this. There's a valuable place for that. But can you be open to receiving the fact that it'd be great for you to join a men's group or a women's group if you're listening to this and you're a woman, so that you can receive what you need that fills you up. And then you'll be able to start giving in that environment also. But then there's going to be another point where you have to receive. And so I think that's one of the biggest gifts that I've learned in this journey in the last couple of years, is just being open to the things that want to come to me based on where I'm at in my growth path. And it's a powerful thing.
This kombucha's got me burping.
Yeah. You're just halfway through it.
Yeah, man, it's great. And this conversation is great too, man. It's been pretty awesome getting to know how you think, how you work. Just seems top level, man. It's just, what's next for you? Like, what are some of the projects you're working on?
So my big mission right now is to get more men into my 8-week program called the Mental Shift. And the Mental Shift is all about helping any man get unstuck from where they are. And most of these men that come into this they're working at a pretty high level already, again, making 6 or 7 figures. And they just know that there's more they have to give the world. And so my mission is to show that, hey, there's something in your system that's creating distraction. We can simplify the system down to the pillars, and then decide what does it look like for you to be the greatest version of yourself inside those pillars. What resistance will you face? And then chart next steps for you to take aligned action on. And once you do that in a way that doesn't create overwhelm, but gives you just enough discomfort to know that you're on the right path, it becomes a life-changing thing. So that's the mental shift. I'm doing a lot of writing right now. And so maybe there's a book coming.
Ooh,
right. I've put a forcing function in place, and this is the first time I'm saying this, but I'm actually right now in the middle of a 37-day writing sprint. Wow. Where I wake up and write a chapter every day. So right after you see me do the burpees in the morning, what I'm doing is I'm sitting down at my desk and writing a chapter.
Whoa.
And so the rough draft will be done in 37 days, which is the day before my birthday, July 27th. So that's happening right now in the background.
That's another way to push yourself, huh?
Another way to push it. Create that forcing function. I have some accountability partners in place for that. And now here we go. I'm talking about it in public.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on a mission with I'm on a fasting mission right now. So my goal is to also add more elements that I can teach men that gives them access to things you can't have when you're full all the time. And not just full with food, but full with things. Right?
Tell me more about that. Fasting is something that I haven't got myself beyond 24 hours.
What I've found in my fasting journey is there are things that you can access when you're fasting within your spirit and your mentality that can only be tapped into when you're fasting, because there's something about a man being able to experience hunger that allows this opening in your soul, in your spirit. And everybody's not ready for that, right? Even that conversation right now is going to turn some people off. It's like, nah, I'm about to eat my food. We're taught to eat food from a very early age, right? So in my case, I've been eating food for 44 years a certain way and always thinking about food. My goal was to detach from all the things that I had an unhealthy energy around, even though I ate mostly healthy food. But I was always thinking about, where's my next meal come from? What am I going to do? Like I'm starving, but I'm not. But my mind was always there. So I wanted to conquer that, right? I conquered the alcohol. I conquered the caffeine. I conquered the drugs. I conquered all the other things that I had attachments to. And so the food was the next big step. And I feel like I'm on a mastery path with that. So I'm not giving all the details on that yet. I've given some things, but I don't need people to try to do what I'm doing. And I'm always very careful to what information I give, because people are like, oh, I'm gonna try that, or I'm gonna do that, or how can I do that? The main premise here, when you hear things like we're talking about, what are the principles that we're talking about, and how can you apply those principles to your life? You don't need to do exactly what I'm doing. You don't need to do exactly what Sosa's doing. But is there something that your intuition is nudging you on that you haven't been paying attention to? And how about you just go do that? Mm-hmm. And if you did that enough times, you don't really need information from anywhere else, because this is the master guidance system right here. So
that voice is everything.
That's there.
Just like you said, because these are great ideas, and take what you like, leave what you don't. But what's most important is your very next step that is right for you. Yeah. That's huge. Yeah. But I did see on your Instagram that you completed a year of no caffeine and no alcohol. What's more impressive is the no caffeine, especially with how early you're getting up sometimes.
Yeah.
I know you did that for a year. I don't know what your relationship with it is right now, but for anybody who's a high performer, caffeine is the companion that this country is getting built on.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm pulling up. I'm not being rude and getting on my phone.
Not at all. Yeah, look it up. It's all good too.
There it is. So in real time, I'm going to show you where we're at.
Where
I'm at.
I need to get that app.
So I'm
544 days.
544 days, no caffeine, no alcohol.
I'll just put that on there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's I'm on my own natural energy, man, and it's the greatest decision I could have ever made. Like, I feel the same every day. I don't need. You think about it. You're drinking alcohol, you're sending your body into a certain influence, right? Then you wake up, you're like, oh, I need some coffee. You're sending your body to another influence. And it's just constant up and down, your body needing these things. And you hear people say, and I used to say it myself, you don't want to talk to me if I don't have my caffeine or if I don't have my coffee. And it's like, why are we saying that? Oh, there's no way I can go without coffee. I get headaches. isn't that telling you something? Right? What's going on with it? And I'm not telling anybody not to do it. I'm just putting the information out there. If you stop doing something and you have this reaction to it, there's probably something going on with the thing you were doing. Right? And so for me, that just became non-negotiable. It's like, I don't want my body going through that anymore, especially now. I'm going to be 45 next month. I got, 3 grandkids. It's just, man, I want the best years of my life, and I don't want to be dependent on anything, right? If I don't have food to eat, that's okay. Let me have some water and go do my things I need to do, right? I'm not dependent on any of this stuff.
True mastery. That's true mastery right there.
Self-mastery is the key.
So caffeine obviously is that production, blocks the adenosine or whatever. It makes you feel awake, but it taxes your hormones or it taxes adrenal glands or whatever. And it masks what your body's trying to tell you. Mm-hmm. It masks the recovery that we need, because most of the time we're just taught to go because you don't feel like you're enough, or you're afraid of something. You're afraid to slow down, afraid of rest. And that's honestly why people take the caffeine, because I got to do this. I got to do this. I've taken a few caffeine breaks. This has inspired me to take another one for longer, because the mind game, of course, you go to the gym and you work on the mind. There's many other ways to also work on the mind to achieve freedom and mastery. And that's definitely one of them. Love that. It's a powerful. Now, since you diverted from the actual fasting, part of this Rising Man group, though, that Matt Key and Preston just came back from this, about a month ago, this Compass retreat, where they spent 4 days in the wilderness with nothing but the clothes on their back. And they met up together, but the most powerful part was they went off on their own to be with themselves. No phones, not even a journal, no books, just you and nature. And as I speak about it, man, it's calling me. I'm going to be doing that next year. I'm actually interning with them, so they're teaching me so much, and I've been enjoying the process of Jetty and Julian's leadership. But I want to get my body ready for a 4-day fast. They were talking about how powerful that was.
I can imagine in that scenario. It's huge and out of nature.
Oh, yeah. The wildest thing they were talking about is how the sound of the coyotes in the forest at night when it's dark. But, I'm just going to get myself ready. I've been a city kind of guy, and I want to go back into the wild and back into the nature and back into what our ancestors used to do. Essentially, it's just simplifying our life. We have made it so complicated with our brilliant minds, but a lot of the answers go back to just keeping it simple.
Simplicity, man, for sure. And being able to hear that voice again. Like we all have that voice, and it's guiding us toward our next steps. And we're the only ones in the world, like you are the only one in the world that receives the mastery messages you receive, the internal intuitive nudges that you receive. And so my take on it is that you have an obligation to do something about that, because that's your only way to get to your own level of self-mastery. And that's the stance I've taken in my own life, right? That's the conversation I have with myself. If I don't do something about what comes here to me, then what am I doing? Like, it came to me for a reason. Mm-hmm. Where it came from, you can decide, right? God, universe, whatever you use to describe it, but it landed here. I have an obligation to do something about that. If I do that enough, self-mastery is the only thing that can come from that.
That voice is so powerful. And I got to know that voice, that higher voice, ever since I started quieting down the anxiety, ever since I started quieting down the mental chatter that just unchecked will ruin a lot of things for you. That mind, that ego, what we're talking about, is the source of the fights with your spouse. It's the source of you not getting that promotion. It's the source of you getting lost in your thoughts and emotions and getting run over by them. But how do you still the mind? How do you listen to that voice?
So in this book that I talked about, I'm writing these laws, right? And one of the laws is called the law of quality quiet.
Nice.
In that, what I teach is intentional quiet time. intentional quiet time is one of the only ways to get into hearing your voice again. Because in this world of distraction and all the things that we have right now, what happens is you wake up, jump on your phone, start scrolling social media or looking at what emails came in for work. So you're already in this mode. You haven't had a chance to hear yourself yet, right? And at the time when you're the most vulnerable to be able to hear yourself, you just start letting chaos come in. So maybe you wake up just in time to get to your desk to go to work because you're working from home now. So you're out of bed, coffee's made, boom, there you are, you're on the computer. You just denied yourself the opportunity, okay? Then you get off work. Well, now the kids are home, right? Husband or wife is home. You're doing all the things you need to do to take care of the family, rightly so. And then at the end of the night, you're just tired. You just want to go brainless. So now you got Netflix on. Nowhere in that day did you say, I need some quiet time because I want to be able to hear what's coming through me, right? It just feels like chaos. And so what I teach men to do in my programs is to set it on your schedule. When are you going to have intentional quiet time? And it's got to be a daily thing. And I teach men to start with 2 minutes. Sit in a chair or a designated spot for 2 minutes before you interact with anybody, before you interact with your phone, and just breathe. First of all, the first step is just focus on breathing. Can you do that? And it's not about quieting your mind. It's not about shutting that off because your mind is designed to think. So it's going to think all kinds of things. But if you can focus on coming back to your breath enough times, what happens is you start to train this muscle to bring some peace. Okay. You do this over and over and over again. Then you start to open up these avenues to where, oh, now I'm starting to hear myself a little bit more. I can feel these things that are guiding my life. And then eventually you can do it for 10 minutes and then 15 minutes and 20 minutes. So it's finding a starting point, like always. Don't overwhelm yourself with, oh, I heard you have to meditate for 30 minutes and sit in this pose. And you don't have to do any of that stuff. You can. There's nothing wrong with it. But that may not be your starting point. Can you sit in a chair quiet for 2 minutes and just focus on breathing deeper than you will ever breathe the rest of the day? If you can do that, you start to gain access. And you must earn the right to gain access by putting yourself in that position. If not, chaos will probably continue in your life. It's all available.
When I first started listening to that voice, I'll be honest too, and I'm pretty open about this, and I don't know if I've shared this with you too, but a big part of my healing and growth journey has been through psychedelic plant medicines and the integration and the proper ways of doing it, and having an incredible wife too to hold the space and reflect the right questions. And I developed a relationship with that inner voice, and it led me down to actually exercising. I used to be 140 pounds. I'm like 165 now, but I was 135, 140. Yeah, I was like, that voice literally told me to put on some muscle mass, like, get that vitality, hit the gym, because I was just not really working out. I was just being skinny fat, probably. That voice told me to reach out to my family and develop a better connection. That voice told me to reconnect with my dad, and that was the hardest thing to do. But that voice can look at like many different things that you should do, but if it got placed in your heart or in your mind, take action on that. It takes courage. And the more I did that, the better everything in my life started getting. Everything started really falling into pieces and into place, and miracles started happening. One of the things I wanted to share that has been on my heart to share lately is that this last year in Thanksgiving, my mom and my dad split when I was young at 6. And since then, they waged war for each other for maybe like 15, 20 years. It was just a bad divorce. You can imagine all the problems and things growing up with that. But now that I've been able to father myself, grow through that, be the man that I wanted to be, I wanted to be a good son too. My dad's open and he's a good man now, and my mom and him have reconciled, but it was still very distant. And I'm like, well, why does it have to be weird, and why does it have to be the way they're handling it, which is not harmonious or loving. So I planted seeds, took maybe a year, and invested into a father's trip with my dad, and we went to the mountains of Mexico. That was awesome.
That's great, man.
Did some mountain climbing. It was, I'm getting back into the wild and back into my element, and then back to my ancestors and back to my family, connecting with them, all from listening to that voice. But the miracle was I got my dad to go to a Thanksgiving dinner with my mom's side of the family. And that hadn't happened in 20 something years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was beautiful. I have those pictures, and I get to see them as the iCloud cycles through pictures. And it's just a reminder too of the beauty that gets to happen in your life when you listen to that voice.
That's powerful. And you facilitated that, man. That's powerful. Thanks. That says a lot about you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's something I wanted to share. Because I'm part of this men's team, and they asked this question, and I'm going to ask it to you too, just flowing with it, that's when I felt like a hero. That's when I felt really good about myself.
Yeah.
When have you felt like a hero?
Oh, okay. Felt like a hero. I would say the last time I felt like a hero, let me be honest, I feel a little bit of that every day because of the journey I'm on. And I love it. It's a powerful thing. But I would say for other people, it would be my daughters had a conflict one night, and they actually end up getting physical with each other.
So do that, right?
Yeah, and they're grown, right? They're grown. So I woke up in the morning, and my younger of the two daughters was at my house. I was like, "Hey, what's up? What are you doing?" And so our actual youngest daughter had gone to pick her up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. Just because there was that conflict that happened, and she needed to remove herself from it, which, I applaud both of them for making that happen. But there was a moment where I said, you know what? I got to bring this back together. So I got both my girls together, let everything kind of cool off. And later that day, got both my girls together, and we just talked through what the situation was, what the ideal relationship is that we have here, what each other's responsibility was, and what happened. And, I think we all shed some tears in that conversation, and it was a big growth moment for us. But as a father, as a dad, I felt this responsibility to say, all right, we're not just going to say, hey, girls, don't do stuff like that. You know what I mean? There needed to be some kind of this more divine intervention, which I felt right here. And so that was the last moment. And that's been a while ago.
That's powerful. I will say this, that a lot of the issues I've had with my siblings have happened because, and my dad's a great guy too, and he probably won't watch this. He speaks mainly just Spanish. But a lot of the issues happen in families when there isn't a strong male father figure present, that voice of reason. And that's just amazing that, that you're a present father enough to be able to facilitate that for them, because that is missing in a lot of families.
Yeah, and it's true. And I've had to learn that through the years, because there's been some challenges in those relationships, right? And being a good father, a good dad, there's not a manual that's written for that, right? There's things you learn as you go. And so for me, I had to learn along the way that the way I'm doing things is based on my current perspective of the world. So I'm doing the best I can based on that perspective. And that's what everybody's doing. So I've learned to kind of change my perspective on things and realize that I can't make my kids be what I want them to be. Like, they have their own timing for things, and just trying to show that empathy and love and letting them have that timing so that they just feel supported. And sometimes that support looks different, right? And it doesn't look like how they might want it to look, but it may be what I feel needs to happen at the time in order to give them this growth opportunity. Like, feel this struggle for a little bit that you created and see how you grow from that. I'm not going to let you fall off the deep end, but you need to feel this enough to be able to find resources within yourself or within your own means and do something about it. And so, yeah, it's just like being a dad is a powerful thing. And you're right. Like, being there for your kids is the best thing that you can do. How you're there is also very important, and that's different at different moments.
Yeah, I agree. 4 daughters?
No, 3 daughters and 1 son. So I have 2 daughters by blood, and then my queen right now, she has a, I say right now, like we're changing. Like my queen, she has
another announcement.
Yeah, just announced on the podcast. She has a son and a daughter. So 3 girls, 1 boy. And now 2, a grandson, granddaughter, and then another grandson on the way in September.
Cycles of life. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm excited to get into and step into here in a few years. Just being patient, right? My wife's not ready. She's a career woman right now. Yeah. She's loving it. She's killing it. She's the queen of Cadillac right now.
Queen of Cadillac? What?
Oh, yeah. She's dominating a male-dominated world.
Okay.
She's number 1. She's been number 1 for a few months, and they just respect her. She's honestly, they open the door for her. Like, they play the music that she wants to play. They get the food that she wants to
running things.
Yes. And she does it with love, character, and integrity, and doing the damn work.
I could tell when I met her that she had this certain kind of charge to her, like this energy. Like a lot of people when you first meet them, like they're kind of like, they have that shy moment. She stood right there, right in it.
So attractive. Yeah. Speaking of relationships, you said 8 years. I love how you call her your queen. You could tell like you love her, you respect her. How do you guys compliment each other? Like, what's y'all's relationship dynamic like? How does the committed man fit into being committed to a committed woman?
Great question, man. First thing that comes up is we don't need each other. She can stand just fine on her own with or without me, and I can do the same with or without her. We love being together. We want to be together. So that allows us to be independent in the ways that we need to be, and also create space for each other to be exactly who we are without ever wanting to change the other person. And our motto is most shit doesn't matter. So we don't make big deals about stuff we don't make a big deal about anything. Actually, we've never had like a blowout argument. We've never yelled at each other. We've never cussed at each other. We've never had any of that in 8 years. And we have some raw conversations and we figure things out together. And it's always under this understanding of, I know you have my best interests at heart. And so it just allows us to flow together, man. And it's a beautiful thing. Both of us have similar stories, right? We went to high school together. We were both married for 14 years.
Whoa.
We both ended up having 2 kids in those relationships. We both got divorced around the same time. Her friend saw my message that I put on Facebook that kind of told my story of getting divorced. She said, hey, you should reach out to Anna because she went through a similar thing. It took me like a year to reach out to her. And I told her I was going to, I would take her for a drink one day. It was like another year went by. She's like, you still owe me that drink. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I took her out for a drink and then we haven't looked back since. Wow. But both of us had 4 or 5 years to do the inner work we needed to do to figure out the person we're going to be when we get into our next relationship. And so I was prepared for that. And I think that's why we attracted each other, because we don't need each other. And that's what allows us to love each other the most.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love how you said that so matter of fact, like right away, because a lot of young guys, they are so desperate for love and connection that they will just cling on, be codependent, and ruin the relationship by overbearing their partner.
Yeah.
And luckily, I did the same, just like you. Was loving my life. I did the work. I was single for a while, and then, of course, dating. And what really happened for me was one of these books called The Power of Now. It really taught me to just be in the moment, to control those impulses. Because when I met Violet, she was visiting from San Marcos. I was in El Paso, and she was the one. I could just tell, like, wow, this is exactly what I want. So we went on our first date. Introduced her to my mom on my first date.
On the first date?
Yeah, like
you could feel something.
Yeah, I did. And we just talked for hours, and she told me that she was going to go back to Texas State. She was just visiting. She was going to go back in 2 weeks. I'm like, you know what? Of course, anybody's instinct's like, no, this is the one. I have to hold on to you. So you know what? Whether it's one day or 1,000 days, I'm just going to enjoy the moments here with you. The 2 weeks turned into 3 weeks, turned into 2 months. Now it's turned into being married for 7 years.
Man, congrats.
Yeah. And I just never like try to capture her. I just always just loved her presence, and we complement each other very well. It's funny too that when I started dating her at the beginning, I was introverted and she was extroverted.
Okay.
Now she's still bubbly and extroverted, but she's in a phase of introversion and I'm in a phase of extroversion. So it's funny how the dynamics are switching, but your partner will definitely be a powerful mirror and a powerful ally for growth.
Yeah.
And it's something that I can't stress enough, how I hope you're not projecting any of the subconscious things that you're dealing with yourself to your partner. I hope you take whatever you think is going on in your relationship and just put it on yourself and say, am I showing love and affection the way I want it? Am I doing the acts of service the way I want them?
Sure.
And definitely just not even expecting either, just being what you are, being authentic and not expecting anything back. But having love and having these 4 pillars, life's good.
Life's good, man. And, it's not to say that there aren't challenges. And a lot of people, like when I'm out in public and people ask me how I'm doing, I try to be as mindful of my answer as possible. So most of the time it's excellent. I'm doing great. Unrecognizable. Like I throw these words out there and people are like, "Wow, why'd you have to think about it?" I was like, I want to be thoughtful about my answer that I'm giving you because I'm trying to feel how I'm actually doing right now. But out in public, I'm never having a bad day. And a lot of people around me know that, like, "Oh, do you ever have a bad day?" And I'm like, I have moments that challenge me, right? You see how I'm labeling it right now. It's not even bad. I have moments that challenge me. And I deal with those in a way either on my own or with the people that I need to deal with those with, so that when I come to you, whether you're a client of mine, a friend of mine, family member of mine, I don't bring that energy to you. By the time I get to you, I'm great because I've dealt with the thing. And I think it's a powerful way to get to things so that you don't project and that you don't bring energy into a space where somebody might need you, or you don't bring energy into a space where you're just bringing everybody down because you like to, let me be careful here. I'm not trying to be judgy. You're consistent at carrying a bad day or a rough day around with you. And yeah, we can basically manufacture and create what we want as long as we have these systems in place. If you're carrying around days where there are constant struggles and there's chaos going on and you're always tired, like most people's answer to say is like, I'm tired. Why? Why? What can you do different to what's bogging you down all the time? Can you start doing something about that? Or are you okay saying that you're tired and lethargic and gaining weight and doing that every day? Because you don't have to be, but if you are and you're happy, genuinely happy, then fine. We don't need to touch it, right? But something tells me you're not. And same conversation I had to have with myself when I got to 230 pounds and I was almost 30% body fat and just flabby. And like I had to have that conversation with myself. Like, are you actually happy with this? If so, continue, right? Just want you to be happy, my man. You know what I mean? If you're not, let's change something. And let's start small and layer on behaviors. And so we all have that opportunity. And that's, podcasts like this will hopefully help people to gain some perspective on what it is that you actually do have the power to do. And that's a lot more than you can imagine. It's just a matter of kind of removing yourself from that matrix and going to that next level of personal power and doing the uncomfortable thing that your mastery is guiding you toward.
Man, so many gems in this podcast, Donovan. It has been a pleasure getting to know you and be sweating with you every Thursday, man.
For sure, man. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. For sure. Let's do it again.
Oh, yeah. Bye, everybody.
Peace.